acid, bases and salts. You already studied acids are substances which are sour in taste. The substances which are sour in taste, just like our vinegar. That substances are known as acids. Bases are the substances which are bitter in taste. Bitter in taste and feel soapy while touching. When we touch base, a simple example of base is our soap itself. If we taste soap, its taste is bitter and we can feel soapy while we touching it. Similarly, acids are substances which are sour in taste. Both are corrosive in a high concentration. Acids, the special properties of acids are those substances which are release hydrogen ions when dissolved in water. What is hydrogen ions? What is hydrogen ions? We already studied in 5th standard in our previous chapter. The substances which are charged particles. Charged particles are known as ions. The positively charged hydrogen ions contains in a substance that is acid. In the case of hydrogen ions, it cannot exist alone. Hydrogen ions exist only with water. That means any material which shows acidic nature only in liquid form, only in the presence of water. Simple example, hydrochloric acid, nitric acid, etc. etc. The chemical formula of hydrochloric acid is HCl. Hydrogen is in gaseous form, chlorine also in gaseous form, but that is why the HCl, hydrogen chloride, is also in gaseous form. But it is in gaseous form, it do not show the properties of acid. It shows acidic nature only when it melt in water. We mix in water. Okay, hydrochloric acid shows acidic nature only when in the liquid form. Similar, another example is nitric acid, etc. etc. There are a lot of acid. Vinegar we used in the food processing. Vinegar is also an acid. Similar many acids we used in our daily life. Anything which sour in taste contains acid. Lemon, amla, unripe mangoes, etc. etc. A lot of substances contains acid we use in our daily life. Bases releases hydroxyl ions, that means OH minus ions when dissolved in water. That substances are known as bases. Hydroxyl ions, OH minus ions. In the case of acid, it is H plus ions. In the case of base, it is OH minus ions. You already studied about the OH minus or hydroxyl ions. Bases soluble in water are called alkalis. The bases which are soluble in water is known as alkalis. Some bases which do not soluble in water. For example, sodium hydroxide, calcium hydroxide, etc. etc. In our soap, we use a base. This is an example for ions in acid and bases. In acid, H plus and Cl minus that join and forms HCl. In the base, K plus OH minus. Listen, H plus gives acidic nature for HCl and OH minus gives basic nature for KOH. Understand? H plus ions gives acidic nature for HCl solution and OH minus gives basic nature for KOH solution. Then we can check the properties of acid and bases. It's clear. Properties of acid. It's sour in taste. Conducts electricity when dissolved in water. Turns blue litmus red. We already studied about the litmus. We are going to study about indicators. We can discuss later. In the properties of base. Bitter in taste. Conducts electricity when dissolved in water. Turns red litmus blue. Dilute acid. Decrease hydronium ions. H3O plus ions. Concentration per unit volume results in formation of dilute acid. That means when we add water to an acid to dilute it, when we add water, the oxygen in the water and H plus ions in the acid forms H3O plus ions. That means concentration. When we add water, it dilutes. This process is highly exothermic. What is the exothermic process? The process which releases heat. When we add water to acid, which release heat to produce heat. In the case of base, decreased hydroxyl ions, OH minus ions concentration per unit volume. The results in the formation of dilute base. This exothermic reaction. Exothermic reaction. When we add water to a base, it releases heat. When we add water to an acid, it also releases heat. Normally we advise, do not add water into acid. When we want to dilute some acid, we add acid to water, drop by drop, by continuous stirring. Otherwise it splash and causes many dangerous problems. You may hear about the acid attack. Normally we can hear acid attack. When we splash acid to a body, it burns just like our fire. Strength of acid. Strong acid means which release more H plus ions. Weak acid means which release less H plus ions. Example, hydrochloric acid for strong acid. Weak acid, acetic acid, that means vinegar. Similarly, in the case of strong base, which release more OH minus ions. For example, NIOS. Weak base release less OH minus ions. Ammonium hydroxide example. Common acids. Vinegar, acetic acid. Tomato contains oxalic acid. Orange contains citric acid. All these are sour in taste. Lemon as a citric acid, tamarind, tartaric acid, curd, lactic acid, etc. etc. We can continue our class about indicators on next class. Thank you.